This is because John has messed up recently and is trying to make things up by being extra romantic today because John is constantly messing up.
It's Pride Month. Pay a queer artist to draw stuff for you. That's what I did this month, or for this month. I actually commissioned Honey, my co host on Crisis of Infinite Opinions, several weeks ago for this. And it's finally come together, and we're ready to show you guys. This has come from a long-running bit I've had, which is the idea that Pride across the DC universe looks different from a lot of the Prides we have here. I mean, every city has a unique culture that is going to affect the way that Pride happens there. New York City Pride is different from San Francisco Pride, is different from New Orleans Pride. But the cities of the DC universe are incredibly different from our, regular cities. And so I hired Honey to explore what that means, what that looks like. And we collaborated and we came up with a lot of really cool ideas that I'm really excited to show you. So without further ado, let's get into Pride across the DC universe.
So this all started with Gotham because I fully believe that Gotham City Pride is far different from Pride in our universe. I think that Gotham City Pride is a spooky Pride. I feel like it is a very goth Pride. Like you know how people joke about gay Halloween? Gotham Pride is gay Halloween 2. Gotham Pride is one of the only prides you will ever see that has a mosh pit. It is a tough pride. It also has no cops. Not because the cops don't try to be at Gotham Pride, but because there's always a terrorist attack somewhere else in the city, which baffles some members of the Bat family because, you can't have a St. Patrick's Day parade in Gotham without it being attacked by somebody. But Pride in Gotham is totally safe. This is largely because many of the supervillains who could attack Pride are attending Pride. And if you attack Pride, you're going to have to deal with Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, Catwoman, Catman, Bane, Scandal Savage, and, how many other LGBT villains that I'm just forgetting. But how are these villains supposed to attend Pride if there's so many cops and Bat family members attending? That's where the terrorist attack comes in. I believe that there is a shadow Pride planning committee in Gotham, and what their job is to figure out who's going to bomb someplace else to get all the cops to go chase after them during the Pride Parade so all the other villains can enjoy themselves. Now, in addition to the grand scale, far back images, I wanted Honey to take a look at the ground level, get some character art in there as well. And so I had a lot of fun with these commissions. So we had a couple of different things that we wanted to really see here. Of course, you can't do DC Pride without DC's favorite sapphic couple, Harley and Ivy. So, of course, they're going to be strutting their stuff down there, having a blast. Next, not actually a couple. I believe that Catman and Catwoman are attending together as a sort of mutual revenge cucking. Catwoman, she would love to attend Pride with Bruce if Bruce would just admit that he's a bottom, that he's bi, and that, he likes her strap. And Catman really, he wishes that one of his boyfriends, either Deadshot or Ghostmaker, would come down here. Ghostmaker is not about to associate with criminals because he's, lethally murdered a bunch of them. And Deadshot I think it's funny if Deadshot thinks he's straight. Deadshot is, you know, he just thinks that's what bros do for each other. Now, that's not to say that Deadshot isn't at Pride. He's just being a good bro and protecting Pride from, like, one of the few villains who'd actually do something. And once again, why you don't attack Gotham City Pride. Because all the villains will come after you. And so, Scarecrow thought he was going to do something with homophobia, release fear toxin and, cause everyone at Pride to be homophobic. Wouldn't that be a laugh? But no, he got caught by Black Alice and Deadshot, and the Bat family's confused. All right, next up we're heading to Central and Keystone City. They are a pair of twin cities. And so when I was giving Honey my dossiers on each of these areas, I provided a lot of inspiration from the famous twin cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And she took a lot of inspiration as well from the Kansas cities. I really love this image that Honey has made here. The sunset here is just incredible. And I love the ethereal quality of the Flash running along the water. I think his blur is just so cool looking there as the parade marches over the bridge between the two cities. Central and Keystone are based off of are in Kansas and are partially based off of Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. Fun fact, Chappell Roan is actually from Missouri, and Kansas City is home to the American Jazz Museum because Kansas City held a unique position in the creation of jazz music. We'll get more into the musical aspects of Central and Keystone City, but I really did want to emphasize their connectivity, and so I love this image of them crossing the bridge, that this is a two-city-wide pride, that, people from both sides of the border between the city are going to be here. I just think it's a really cool, element to have two cities so interconnected. All right, on to the music element. And so we decided to have a big band shell here for a Pride concert in Central City where, some of the heroes could party, but also some of the villains could entertain because there are quite a few music-based villains in Central City, or former villains. First off, of course, you have Music Meister, who never had a canon sexuality, but I'm sorry, musical theater energy. All right? He made a musical episode of The Flash. So then we have Pied Piper, Hartley Rathaway, up on stage playing the flute. Hartley is a deaf musical prodigy with sonic weaponry, and he was originally a villain to Barry Allen, the Flash, but he eventually left villainy behind and became a great ally to Wally West as the Flash, and eventually came out to his friend, and was one of the first out gay characters in comics. Not the first, that was Extraño, but, very, it was really cool to see them. You can actually see them in Pride Through the Ages. And a couple of years ago, they got a foil in Drummer Boy. Drummer Boy is a fat gay villain who co-starred in the short Be Gay Do Crimes, where he's trying to rob from the rich and give to the poor. And Pied Piper tries to help out and lead him in a more heroic direction. His initial costume left much to be desired, but he got a much cooler costume in Absolute Power Super Son. Up in the front, we have Jules Jourdain and Jess Chambers. Jules Jourdain is Circuit Breaker, a Transmask hero with the Still Force powers, similar to the Turtle. And we also have Jess Chambers, a non-binary Flash from Earth 11, the Genderbent world. They also are a potential future Flash. Now on to Coast City. So, now I am reticent to tell anyone that their favorite is homophobic, but Hal Jordan got better. Don't worry, it's fine. So I believe that Coast City is an intergalactic pride. And it started because Hal Jordan said something once that was just a little bit homophobic, and one of the other Green Lanterns decided to be homophobically an ally and just invite all of the gay co-workers in the Green Lantern Corps to Pride in Coast City. So, yeah, I think that what started as just all the Green Lanterns from all over space are coming here just to party and make Hal uncomfortable eventually turned into, well, St. Walker's asexual, he can come, and then, like, you know, he's trying to work with some yellow and red lanterns to try and, like, get them to be better people. And so now, like, all of the corps are showing up to Pride here. And so they can do this rainbow flyover that is so cool, and I love this image. Coast City is just brimming with aliens. And, you know, I actually kind of do enjoy aliens as an immigration allegory. My father's from Cuba, so I have, you know, like, I'm okay with the immigrant as alien story, because on the whole, they're just from another place. And that's all anyone from another country is. And so I very much like this idea of a super multicultural pride. A pride where you have people from all over the planet and all over the galaxy. And that to me is just absolutely beautiful. I think it is so cool to have, you know, so many cultures represented. And, you know, like, this beautiful, gorgeous beach city having, you know, aliens from all over. It's just wonderful. All right, so no Pride is going to be perfect. And unfortunately, that does mean that Coast City Pride is going to be sponsored by Ferris Aircraft. And, of course, they make military planes. I mean, Hal's a test pilot. Like, it was going to happen. So, of course, there's a giant rainbow fighter jet just rolling down the street here. But we had some fun with that. Now, I did mention that Hal was homophobic. Key note here, was. Because during his Spectre run, where he was kind of, you know, getting better from the whole parallax thing, Hal at one point appeared as a woman and representing the Hal's feminine side. And we've taken that to kind of mean that, you know, maybe Hal is a little gender fluid. So we've got him here talking to Sojourner Llewellyn and St. Walker, and just, you know, having a talk. I think they're a little disappointed in him still. He does that sometimes. Now, over in the back, we have Bleeze of the Red Lantern Corps. She heard Gay Wrath Month was a thing, and then she was mad that it isn't actually real. So she is campaigning to make Gay Wrath Month a very real thing, and we love her for it. Up, riding that jet between his legs, is Connor Kent. Why is he here and not in Metropolis? Well, because John Kent just steals the show over there, and, you know, he can't go to Gotham Pride because Tim's there with Bernard. It's a whole thing. Listen, if DC's not gonna have Connor be by, I'm gonna. We know the truth. So we ended up having a little bit of trouble designing Gateway City, because Gateway City is not particularly, like, explored a lot. It is Wonder Woman's home city. However, eventually they just decided to move her to Washington, D.C., kind of leaving Gateway behind. Although Gateway City now does show up in Absolute Wonder Woman, which is amazing. But we ended up basing it a lot off of Los Angeles. And it was funny because but we moved the mountains a little closer. But it was funny because we were having trouble figuring out how to distinguish Gateway City from some of the other West Coast cities that we had been designing, and I said, well, just give it a a neoclassical like face to it. To which Honey said, if I give a modern city a neoclassical face, it's just going to be Washington D.C. You've just reinvented Washington D.C. Being the home of Wonder Woman, of course, I think Gateway City Pride is going to be a little more woman-centered. However, I like to imagine that they're going to be going to pains to actually make sure they're doing a woman-centered event right, and that it's not going to be an event that is discriminatory toward against trans women, or does the thing where they're like, oh, women and non-binary people are welcome at this event because they associate non-binary people with people who were assigned female at birth. I think they're just kind of like putting out the vibes to bring in more women, and making sure that they are, being truly inclusive when they talk about women. I don't think any of their events are going to be women only with like a laundry list of like qualifiers. I think they're just going to be women welcoming, and no one's going to be asking someone who looks assigned male at birth and hasn't transitioned yet, or has is just starting the transition. No one's going to be asking questions about a person who has shown up to a women event. They're just going to be like, okay, yeah. And they're going to welcome you in with open arms. And, this is an event for women, but we know that not all women look the same. And, not all women look like we associate women initially. But so here we have, that design of the city we're starting off with, built to, based off of Sunset Boulevard. We've got the Holiday Girls leading the big parade. Golden Age Etta Candy is there up front as a little old lady. Current Etta Candy is also here right up in the front. We've got Bia, who is a trans Amazon. There's, Amazons are going to be coming from Themyscira to celebrate Pride. I'm sure Nubia and Io will make an appearance at some point. If we continue doing this project, it'll probably be in my next commission for the parade. I really like the lights that people are waving over their heads in this crowd here. I think it's so cool. It gives it this very magical feeling. And, I honestly think there's probably quite a bit of magic that's present at the Gateway City Pride. There's just this glow to that side of the screen that's really nice and contrasts well with the stark neoclassical look of the Gateway City Museum. It's just a really pretty picture, honestly. Now, of course, we got to go through the crown jewel of DC Comics, and of course, I mean Midway City, tiny little town, actually not particularly well known, as opposed to the other city that starts with them, but I just love it. Now, Midway City is home to the Hawks and the Doom Patrol, and the Hawks have a whole bunch of fans. They are theoretically, canonically straight, but we don't really care much for canon anyway. But Hawkgirl, I think she's made a lot of connections in Metropolis. She's going to the Metropolis Pride, probably with Galaxy and Abilene, and Hawkman's been pretty conservative since the 80s. But I do think he's going to appreciate the way the leather fans look at him. But I think what really epitomizes Midway City Pride is the Doom Patrol. I think they have had a massive influence on what this small town has in terms of a Pride parade. Namely that because they are, quite a lot of them, disabled, I think that Midway City Pride is very accessible and also just brimming with body diversity. Elastigirl famously has trouble controlling her powers, and so, her body, if she's not really in control, or thinking about it, she tends to get a little melty. And I think that, like, here, she can let loose a little bit there. Larry Trainer is a burn victim covered in bandages. I fully believe that this is a place where a lot of people with limb differences and facial differences come for Pride because they know that they're going to be around people who understand them. And of course, the whole thing is hosted on Danny Street, the genderqueer street that we all love to see in everything DC. I just love the idea of Danny Street and all the Dannysons. They are my favorite episodes of the Doom Patrol TV show. So we had fun coming up with who we would show here. We wanted to have Coagula here. She's been showing up more in comics, especially in DC Pride, referencing the fact that she was the first trans woman superhero in mainstream comics. And we've got this cute little romance bit from last year that I really liked with Robot Man. Initially, I really wanted to have Robot Man carrying a disability pride flag, because Robot Man is basically a full body amputee, and I thought it'd be great to point out that he is disabled. And because July is Disability Pride Month, and, you know, I thought it'd be good to also show that. It's impossible not to have Elastigirl in one of these pictures just because, like, she's so large. But then over on the other side of the banner, we have the Negative Spirit, Larry, and Rebus. At one point in the comics, Larry merged with another doctor through the Negative Spirit, and they ended up as a non-binary entity referred to with multiple pronouns, but they then pronouns were prominent as they were sort of puzzling themselves out. They went by Rebus, which is a type of visual puzzle, which I actually really enjoy. We really enjoyed having this sort of small town pride go on. I thought it was a really cool idea to just have this little neighborhood, and yeah, it's great. All right, so we love the idea of the star-shaped park in Star City. I thought it was so cool. And something that you can't see as much in the final product, but which Honey was working with here, we also liked the idea of having Swamp Thing here in the park, because we wanted to have Swamp Thing somewhere. Swamp Thing's stories have partially dealt with queerness to some extent. At one point in Swamp Thing, Abby is prosecuted for having an affair with Swamp Thing because he is a non-human entity. And so, you know, like, it feels very queer to have that storyline in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. Anyway, I really like the idea of the Pride Parade trail going all the way around the star-shaped park of Star City. I think that's super cool. I also like the idea that Star City Pride, given this huge green space in the middle of the city, like, this thing is several times the size of Central Park. I think that it's a very ecological pride. There's a lot of cleanup activities, a lot of litter picking up, and I really do enjoy the idea that for Star City, probably based on Oliver's, you know, lefty ideas, that for him, because he's not queer, he treats Pride as sort of a invite to action, to do stuff for the community, to help people. And I think the entire Arrow family takes this as a time to do actions specifically meant to help the queer community. All right, so we wanted to emphasize that service, and so we decided to have an STI awareness panel up here where people could get tested and, you know, learn their status, get information for making doctor's appointments and all that. But also we did want to have some of our members having fun, especially Connor, who is a canon asexual character. We wanted to have him showing up just to, help, just to, give some moral support, but also, being part of the parade. He gets to, have fun with everyone else while Oliver and Roy bring supplies to the testing clinic up here that's being run. Mia Dearden is helping to check people in because, and I think this is a very important aspect of it, Mia Dearden is one of the few comic book characters who canonically has HIV/AIDS. And, she's fallen into kind of relative obscurity lately, but I think it's really important to bring her back and to, have her combating serophobia. I think that the damage that has been done to our community by both sexually transmitted infections and the government's lack of response to these infections historically has done so much harm, and it's really important to have characters who can make that harm feel real. At one point we were also going to include Sissy Arrowette because of a couple of different things she said, but at one point she mentioned that she's gone by a bunch of different names, including Ralph during one weird phase, and so I wanted to include, there's nothing cis about Sissy, and we just didn't, she just didn't end up in the final product. Alright, so now we're finally here at Metropolis. So now, while Star City is, a much more anti-corporate, service-oriented pride, I do think that corporations are present at Metropolis. However, what I think happens is, so I think it starts with Steelworks provides an endowment for Metropolis Pride to run, and they are hands-off with that. Natasha is basically in charge of organizing it all, but it is a separate entity now, and it's self-funding. But with that ability to not need corporations involved, then they can ask corporations, hey, what are you doing for the community? If you want to be, sponsored here, if you want to be a sponsor, what are you actually doing? What are your initiatives? And so for a while, LexCorp wanted to do just full on rainbow capitalism, but they weren't invited to their own city's pride. And that was largely seen as damning. But under Supercorp, Superman actually was like, hey, we're gonna actually provide services. We're actually gonna do stuff. We're going to fund clinics and health programs, addiction treatment, all sorts of things to benefit the community. And so some corporations, are welcome at Pride. Steelworks has always been welcome at Metropolis Pride because they're also providing security for it. We've seen some really cool, invisible force field, hex, looking shields around buildings in Metropolis, and I think those are just set up along the parade route so that there's actually nothing bad that can happen at Metropolis Pride. Giant robot attacks, it's still not getting through. The parade is protected. So there's actually no need for having cops at Pride because there's this shield. It just works. Alright, so over on the ground floor, Honey really wanted to emphasize the technology of Metropolis, because Metropolis is basically a sci-fi setting at this point. You've got alien technology, advanced human technology, Steelworks and LexCorp. They're always doing something amazing with tech. So let's just run with it. And so she envisioned this futuristic techno rave where the ceiling was also a dance floor, and I thought that was really cool. So over in the corner, we have Tracy 13, Natasha Irons, and Jaime. Tracy has dated Natasha on and off for a while, and she's dated Jaime. And we like both of these ships, and Tracy has two hands. And honestly, not enough screen time anyway. So Up in the center, we have Jay and John. You can't have Metropolis Pride without them. DC would break my kneecaps if I tried. So, had to do that. John is carrying Jay, having a blast. Jay is just reclining and enjoying himself. And probably a shit-eating grin. I think that the carrying here, this is because John has messed up recently and is trying to make things up by being extra romantic today because John is constantly messing up. Over in the corner, we have Dreamer and Galaxy. And so I like to imagine that Dreamer has been just watching all of these happy couples and thruples dancing and having fun, and she is feeling like the single person on Valentine's Day, and she is just grumpy, and Galaxy is trying to help her out, trying to console her. All right, so this scene was planned months in advance, but I do love the serendipity of Jadzia Axelrod actually posting to Blue Sky when asked about the John J. Nia love triangle. Said, Taylor would never admit it, but in her heart, she doesn't think anyone is good enough for Nia. And I just love that just adds just a little bit of angst to this scene, just a little bit more to just liven up Pride a bit.
I hope you've enjoyed our Pride special. It was a lot of fun working with Honey to create these images and to kind of come up with this vision of all the different DC cities. We had a great time working on this. My name is Night the Werewolf Teacher. You can find me at Werewolf Teacher on Blue Sky, and you can find Honey at Exalted Comics on Blue Sky. We're also both available here at Comics Off the Shelf on YouTube.